Okay, so to kick off this video, I'll basically explain the background of it. The guys in P2 and P3 were basically cheating. There's a little bit of lag there, of course, because he actually cut across the track to attempt to catch up to me. And basically these guys were turning off all the rules in this F1 lobby right as people were joining and taking advantage of it. So a lot of the lobby didn't know that we could cut across the track, or be able to ram into each other like that, and I got lucky in this first race because I caught on pretty quickly after the second lap and basically followed them through, eventually overtaking them. Unfortunately I don't have the footage for the overtake, but I did end up basically following what they were doing, cutting across the grass at the big chicane. And basically these guys were just getting really griefy. They were just griefing people in the lobby, and I eventually messaged them at some point, just making fun of them, saying, oh, I still won, and that results in this. Essentially, this guy, ZJCK_YT, had basically used custom grid to put him far ahead after I'd originally messaged him, making fun of him, and put his friend behind me so they could ram me out the race. And so I got his friend back right there, and obviously my skill is gotten pretty good at this game. I was able to pretty much just keep my car in a straight line still, which honestly I was quite impressed with myself, and I did that multiple times here. But yeah, they would start gloating about it because of how far they were ahead in the race. Bear in mind this guy would start himself pretty far ahead and yeah, be well ahead of me. So in this one, he actually swapped it around and put his friend in front of me, and actually he started behind me. So I was like, nah, I'm not dealing with that, and brake checked him. And that was when I wouldn't have stopped the original plan anyway. He would have rammed me. So yeah, as you can see, they're actually both sandwiching me. They are actually so salty at the fact that I basically beat them in that first race by miles that they've actually started to team up on me to try and, I don't know, dispel my enjoyment of the game. And it wasn't really working, you know. It just made me more and more determined to actually beat them, basically. And as I was trying to do that, and I was on track to actually do that, this guy in the Aston Martin, I don't know who he was, but I don't think he has anything to do with these guys because they ended up leaving the lobby after this. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I would have caught up in this race had this guy just not been so overly aggressive. He just was not giving me any space at all, basically ramming me off the track right there. Even when I tried to fight back, he'd just straight up, you know, steer into me. And so yeah, not very nice, and I ended up getting a little bit frustrated with it because of multiple races past where I was just dealing with this stuff. If it wasn't those guys, then, you know, it would be someone else. And yeah, eventually I overtook the guy and still managed to like place myself on the podium. So I thought that like spoke volumes, essentially. Like I was still at a pretty good relative race pace compared to those guys. I was still getting driver of the day as well for most overtakes compared to those guys. And yeah, I would end up placing on the podium, and essentially I just kept texting them for a 1v1 because that's all I pretty much wanted out of this. You know, if you're going to, you know, gloat in the chat about, oh, you still can't win, you know, you're bad at the game, you're trash, etc., like, then at least give them the decency of like 1v1ing them, you know, just have a 1v1 race. And so I texted them that they have to double team me to stop me from beating them, and you know what, they stopped with doing that. They actually I believe what they tried to do here was, you know, put me in the middle of them so they could basically sandwich me again. And as you can see, he has already placed himself behind me, and for real, I just has already rammed into me. But the funny thing about this is that he actually took himself out at the same time, and obviously he misses me there. And now I can just set. He actually crashed into the wall as well, so that's great. Now I can actually set off after ZGCK to actually, you know, ZJCK, sorry. I'm just going to call him JCK. I can actually now set off after him to actually try and beat him, and he actually is dead set on trying to grief me here. And so you know, I just came fully prepared. I knew he was going to try and ram me, so I would try and place my car into positions where, you know, they wouldn't be able to spin me out again. I would at least have a pretty good position to be able to just continue on the track as if nothing had happened. My objective here wasn't to win the race, my objective was to beat them. You know, at this point, I'd pretty much played with them in this lobby for close to an hour since that first win. I'd say at least about 40 minutes or so, where they would just keep ramming me off the track, and just something in me just stayed determined. Usually, when that stuff happens, I just quit the lobby straight away, it like ruins my race. But with these guys, you know, they were just talking so much trash that essentially, yeah, I just wasn't having it, and so I just wanted to beat them. And they were calling me gay in the chat and everything, which, I mean, let's just not bring my sexuality into the equation. If you're still using gay as an insult, like, I don't care how old you are, you're a melt. You're an absolute melt. There's just, you shouldn't be using that stuff as an insult anymore. And yeah, it because of that, it also felt especially good to beat these guys, because, you know, it's just immaturity on such a huge level. Like, these people just should not be able to play the game at this level, you know. They shouldn't be able to raise people like me. People like this, they should be given penalty after penalty, should be given lower license levels, but yeah, it's still somewhat broken, that system. It still doesn't work quite right. And so I guess I don't want to say, oh, we'll have to wait till Codemasters does something about it, because the F1 game's been like this for a long time. But yeah, essentially I was beating them at their own game, minus the ramming of course, but in terms of the shortcuts and stuff, because the good thing about it, they can do that all they want, but when you're trying to take someone out, it really does give, you know, a lot of leeway to actually dodge that sort of stuff. And so, yeah, it felt really good to actually do some dodging, because at this point, I was driving so well, and, you know, was dodging them, getting away from them so well, that he actually gave up. He actually ended up giving up and started to turn around on the track, him and his friend. I think his friend had already turned around, and so there we go. That's how close he was to taking me out then. And look at that. It basically, you know, it made me feel like Jarno Opmeer, you know those videos he does where he does the open lobbies, no rules sort of things, and they actually turn around to try and ram him, and he dodges them so well. It made me feel like that. Like, it was so this race was so satisfying, because not once did they actually manage to hit me. Here's another situation. Almost hitting me there, I get out the way and use the wall to actually set my car. Like, it's almost as if, you know, he didn't get me at all. And I mean, look at that. The dummy there was absolutely perfect. Feinting for the left, going to the right instead. It's almost like a game of football now. Like, there's just no way he's catching me. And at this point, even if they do crash me out, I'm still well ahead of them. I still beat them. And I mean, look at that. Even the Red Bull tries to join in. I don't think he had anything to do with those guys, but I guess he was just joining it. But look at that. Like, how do you miss this badly? I don't get it. It's actually embarrassing. Look at that. It's actually so embarrassing how much they're missing. And at this point, like, even the Red Bull can't hit me. But I think at this point I'd actually noticed that the Red Bull wasn't trying to hit me, I don't think. I think they were just going in reverse to go in reverse. I don't know. But yeah, that's essentially a story how I beat griefers in F1 23. It was a lot of fun. You know, this race in particular was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun to send that final message. So yeah, and they basically just replied with "no" again. Like, they just kept putting the same thing. Really immature, and they basically just got taught a lesson. So yeah, hopefully they feel embarrassed about that. It was certainly embarrassing, definitely a miserable thing to watch back on from an outside perspective, because it looked like they got really desperate to grief me after a certain point, just literally turning around on track and trying to ram me and still missing. It was really sad. And yeah, that's basically the end of this video. So let me know if you want to see more like this, and I'll see you soon. Peace!